Okie doke. Now I think I've managed to unmute myself. I've done that classic thing of Zoom the last 2 years where I still can't tell whether I'm bloody muted or not. So thank you for turning up this evening. First of all, to the Marine Conservation Society event as a whole, but especially with mine. You've got Deborah Meaden talking in a different room, and yet you've still turned up to listen to me. So thank you very, very much there. I'm Ben Garrett. I'm Professor of Evolutionary Biology and Science Engagement at the University of East Anglia. I'm also an author and a BBC presenter. Unfortunately, I've worked around the world for the last 20 odd years now in both terrestrial and aquatic conservation. And I've been lucky enough to see some of the best, some of the biggest, some of the most iconic projects around the world, working with everyone from Dr. Jane Goodall right up to, or right alongside Sir David Attenborough. So I've been very, very lucky in that capacity. However, what I've noticed again and again and again is that same thread that determines a positive outcome in so many conservation projects, and it's collaboration, it's working alongside people. So my talk this evening is Ocean Action, how together we can fight for a healthier, better protected ocean for future generations. It's a hell of a mouthful, and as you can probably tell, it would take slightly longer than 10 minutes for me to convey all that needs to be said within that topic. So I'm going to give you a brief overview. I'm a big one for quotes. I do love my quotes. I've got one here by Baba Diom, who is an 81-year-old, 82 now, Senegalese forestry expert. And I love this quote. We hear it quite often, but he first said this at an IUCN conference back in the late 60s. In the end, we will only conserve what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. And we say that and use that in such a throwaway comment, but I want to deconstruct that really quickly. It covers 3 different areas. It's love, understanding, and education. And I could stop there because that is the bloody key to all the success that we're talking about. We heard Peter talking then, the science is covered. A lot of what I hear from people involved with conservation who aren't scientists, who aren't academics, who aren't politicians, is this sense of, what can I do? I'm one person. You hold the power. And we've already seen from the amazing work that Peter's talking about, the amazing concepts and ideas and in terms of analyses and projects going on around the world, we have the science covered. We know how to address ocean acidification. We're seeing that in some areas, 47% of great baleen whale populations are on the increase. That's there. However, the worst thing I think is apathy within conservation. And again, we heard that at COP, I mean, Sandy was saying COP wasn't great, and Peter was saying COP wasn't great. It wasn't. But actually, it's a call to arms. It's not a call to arms just for governments and big corporations and academics and scientists around the world. It's for each and every one of you, of us. Now, Peter gave you the homework to read an academic paper. I am an academic, and I would never do that to you. What I want you to do is, and I'll give you my homework at the end, but you do have homework, and I think it's hopefully slightly easier. I'm going to deconstruct the talk, the quote, sorry, that Baba Diom said and that I gave you a moment ago. This idea of love. You're all here this evening because you love the coast, you love the marine environment, you love fish or whales or dolphins or porpoises or turtles. You all have that element that hooks you. Maybe it's not the right term there, being hooked into marine conservation, but you are all hooked in some way. And I hope it's fair for me to say that you are all in love with the marine environment in some way, shape, or form. By default, you're here, you're already a captive audience. If we can harness that love, then we're 90% of the way there. The second bit of what he said is understanding. And we do need to develop our understanding. We've seen with the pandemic, the last 2 years, there are so many issues in misconceptions and misunderstandings. And it can have devastating consequences. So something you do have to do for yourselves is educate yourselves. And we, importantly, can go one step further because, again, you're all here. You're all a captive audience. The next bit of what Diom said is to be taught. Now, you're teaching yourselves, but the homework I want to give you, I keep calling it homework, but the concept, that the takeaway message that I want to have from this evening is that I want you to go away over the festive period, over Christmas, and I want you to spread that love, spread that understanding, and teach somebody else. Show them why the natural world is so important, or more specifically, why the marine environment is so important. Teach them about sustainable fisheries. Teach them about the use of keep cups like these and how relevant they can be. If we can combine this idea of a sense of love for the marine world, a sense of understanding, and a sense of teaching, whether it's teaching ourselves or others around us, then we can encapsulate all that Baba Diom said there. And we will make a difference. Something that I hear from kids so often is, what can I do? Big businesses are doing this. Governments aren't listening. Other countries are doing worse than I am. Yeah. There are 7.9 billion of us on the planet. Very fortunately, I've talked to Sir David on a few occasions when we've been filming together, and there's this wonderful idea that when he was born, there were just over 2.5 billion people on the planet. So we have increased quite significantly in that time. But that's 7.9 billion individuals. And it sounds cliche, but it really is true that if we all make a difference and enough of us make a concerted effort, that makes the whole issue that much more easily overcome. Something that helped me is the natural world and the marine environment is so difficult to convey that sense of tangibility to those who don't already love it. And I would say that one thing that I would like you to do is, for yourselves and others, think about how you make the marine world more tangible. There's just under 7,500 miles of coastline within mainland Britain. When you go up to including all the little islands as well, that easily doubles. But even when I was a kid and I learned that, I still couldn't get that in my head. And I grew up in Norfolk. And for me, it was hearing there were 93 miles on my coastline. And suddenly it brought it back to me. I knew it was on my coastline. I knew what washed up on my high tides, my low tides. Start making the marine world more tangible. And of course, I'm already preaching to the converted. I'm talking to so many of you who already know this and know how we do this. But the more we do this, the better we are at making it tangible, at making it not a throwaway environment that's so anonymized and so difficult to be perceptible. It makes conservation and preservation that much easier. Over the last 12 months, despite being within a pandemic and in lockdowns on and off, we have had within the Marine Conservation Society 12,955 volunteer hours of work done with the Marine Conservation Society. That's 539 days, 19 hours of people giving up their time, helping out and doing the work. Within that, we've had 912 beach cleans, over 115,000 meters of coastline has been surveyed and cleaned. We've removed over 10 tons of litter, which equates to over 28,000 bags of litter. And the sad thing, and this is a sad thing for me, that equates to 8,909 volunteers. All that achieved with just over 8,000 people. Imagine how much more we could do if we doubled that. It would only be 16,000. It's a tiny number. And that's why I want you to spread the word, why I want you to share the love, why I want you to educate and help people feel empowered about what they do. Now, I don't have very long. I wish I could talk to you much, much longer. I really do. If you're looking for inspiration, don't look to Deborah or Doug or me. We make a career out of this, and we are lucky enough and privileged enough to do the things that we do. As a scientist, as a camera operator, as a dragon, we are very, very lucky. But every single one of us, everyone can make a massive difference. And I've got just two very quick examples. Where I grew up, there is a very lovely little cafe called the West Runton Beach Cafe. It's on Twitter as at West Runton Beach. Louise and her team have completely changed a beach cafe experience where 2-minute beach cleans are done, where fossil hunting is done, where they work alongside MCS and other wildlife charities, including Norfolk Wildlife Trust, to actually clean the beaches and help people understand. And it makes a massive difference in the area, having that hub. And it's because those people care. An absolute hero of mine is Peter Lewis, who again is on Twitter at Peter_J_Lewis, who started, I think it's fair to say, his degree slightly later than many of us, and has completely thrown himself into marine conservation down in Bournemouth. Peter is such a bloody hero of mine and such an inspiration that this year he did the London Marathon just a few weeks ago for the Marine Conservation Society. And I think Peter would be the first to say it wasn't natural, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world, and yet he did it. He did it, and already the silly bugger is looking to do the channel swim at some point in the future. These are normal people doing normal things that are making the world a difference. Please never, ever think that any contribution you make, even if it's something as small as using one of these keep cups, doesn't have a huge impact on the world around you. It really does. From someone who works in academia, who has seen the benefits and impact of conservation, anything you do makes a difference. So my takeaway would be, do something. It doesn't matter what you do. If someone tells you that using different straws doesn't count or using keep cups doesn't count because there are bigger problems, they don't understand the issue. They don't understand the importance of involving others. So my first thing is do something. Educate yourself. Please educate yourself and understand the problems, because as we heard in that quote, it'll help everything else. And finally, tell someone else, spread that word, be that annoying uncle, auntie, granny, granddad, mum, dad, kid at Christmas around the table who spreads the love about marine conservation. If we do that, if enough of us do that, it has an impact. And my last thing I want to show you before I disappear is one of my most prized possessions. It doesn't look great. This is an imprint of a footprint taken from Norfolk that was 700,000 years old. This was left by Homo heidelbergensis, by a man who had a size 10 footprint, walking next to what we assume was a woman with a couple of kids. 700,000 years ago. This footprint survived for nearly 1 million years in the mud in Norfolk. And when it was found, it was only there for a matter of days. They still found pollen grains left in the footprint itself. And I show you this because of this idea that what we do now, however small, however imperceptible it seems, leaves an imprint. And that can be something that changes the world or just changes very, very locally. But please never forget, everything that you do makes a difference. I'm going to leave you. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show, the rest of the talks, the rest of the AGM, the rest of the conference this evening. Thank you very much.